That is why our office at this point is pushing the city's representatives, the City 10, to examine all CWA operations and expenditures are directly tied to the delivery of water, and further request that CWA do what's called a business plan, basically admitting where their sales are going to be and right-sizing their agency to match that sales environment. And lastly, they need to sell off their excess supplies. And I will say I am more stringent on CWA now than what I was in the past. If you listen to CWA, one of the things the city did to get it down to 14% was they tried to do a 2% operating cut to CWA's budget. And their general manager still is messaging that that 2% is very difficult for him to swallow. At the same time, you can still find sponsored media pieces and advertisements on podcasts that they are putting out there. I'm sorry, but if you're doing that, your cries of austerity fall on deaf ears.
Very incisive. Thank you for the learning. Again, good afternoon. I would like to wake you up. Humor. I craft my input with our poor community description by City Heights CDC. And we experienced this issue to the bone. We are doubtful if we are drinking the clean water coming from our faucet. Because in the morning, if I open the faucet, it's not water. It's dark liquid or fluid. So I heard that the county is doing some study to replace, the pipings with this lead soldering, especially from the supply line to the service line to individual homeowners' property. And we feel that. And now we are paying, actually we just paid $120 at the Treasury office. And we are still lagging of that $1,200 for the months that our readings, there were no readings at all for 1 year. And suddenly we have 1,000 plus. And we are still paying $120 per month, billed every 2 months. So I think we have to do something because this is human survival. Second to clean air. I do not want to commit any social violation. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank
Javier. Next is Philip, if you can please come forward.
Thank you, PUD. You're wonderful. Your staff is so great. I really enjoyed your presentation through the years. This item is, to me, the pure water and the whole PUD situation with water and wastewater is huge. And it's huge. It's big enough. I'll just speak for myself, but I think a lot of other public would join me. It's a tough one to understand as a public person. I wonder about the obligatory requirements, which I don't understand. I wonder about the cost assumptions related to water purchases. I don't like the word assumptions, but it's probably what would have to be done. It's probably appropriate, but I don't like it. I like solid factual metrics. And the other thing that blows me away, and I want to understand this, I'm going to try to understand this in the future. And I'm going to tell you this. I'm a great conservator of water. For many years, you wouldn't believe how much little water I use. I won't give you the whole story. I use very little water. I'm part of the conservation group. And I don't understand that why we haven't had a big impact. You have less water use, don't you have less costs? But that doesn't seem the analogy that you're explaining to me. So I'm going to definitely try to figure out from somebody in government to explain why my dedicated conservation efforts do not equate to cost savings and revenue increases. And apparently it's the reverse explanation. So as a public, I think you can get my, hey, we
Has
understand
concluded. My apologies, your time has concluded.
We talked about these items a lot earlier today. So thank you that we're continuing this conversation now. I'm surprised that there's going to be, like, did I hear correctly, 100% rate increases for our water issues in order to continue pure water practices and experimentation and planning. I really hope you can be considering subsidy planning for these things as well and have that to be an open, clear, trusted conversation with the public also. Good luck in those kind of efforts. I think, this is a time that we have to practice a lot of dignity in San Diego for the events that have been happening in LA. And like what's mentioned with our own budget issues, there's tons of money that we're going to have to be spending on projects and programs, yet we're going to be losing a lot of money also at this time. So there's a lot of really intense things going on where we have to do one thing and then we do have to do something completely different. That's pretty schizophrenic, and we have to really be on our toes at this time. And there's also a new Republican administration coming in, and they're going to make demands that we don't have to be so, guarded and regulatory towards ourselves. I think we do have to be on our toes and really work on our best practices at this time. If we do really want to concentrate on best practices, I think that will give a focus on what's important for us, and that can lead us through. I think we're about to enter a really difficult time, and we have to have our good ideals in place to make it through this time. So good luck how we can work on these issues and just have a good dignity about the process for all of us. That means not harming each other. Good luck in those efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. That does conclude public comment on item 332.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to thank Ms. Zelaya and Mr. Jones for your presentation, and Mr. Moore and the Office of the Independent Budget Analyst for the analysis. And I want to recognize the department's investment in and progress in improving customer service. That is really important. It's very important to our residents. There's been quite a bit of progress. When customers call in, the call wait times have decreased 89%. And unbilled accounts have decreased 67%. There is still work to do on those, but those metrics are moving in the right direction, and please continue to make progress on both of those. As was mentioned, far and away, the biggest expenditure managed by the Public Utilities Department is the purchase of water from the San Diego County Water Authority. The Water Authority is the water wholesaler for this region. I serve as the City Council's representative on the Water Authority Board of Directors. My priority has been and will continue to be minimizing the rate increases that impact our city's water customers, our constituents. And together with the city's 9 other representatives on the board, as was mentioned, we were successful in reducing the Water Authority's most recent rate hike proposal. But it is my view that just as we here at the City of San Diego have to right-size our budget, the Water Authority needs to right-size its budget. And I heard the comment from Ms. Soñada, and I hear your frustration and the fact that you are perplexed. We asked people to conserve water. The Water Authority for many years asked people to conserve water, and you did that, Ms. Soñada. You did what was asked of you. And now you're hearing that because we are using less water, your rates are going up. Well, and you're wondering why. Well, here's why. And I think it's really unfair to our city's residents, but here's what's going on. You are using less water. And because you are using less water, the Water Authority is selling less water. The Water Authority is making less money. They have fewer revenues. Yet they still have the same staff that they have had. They still have the same debt service that they have. They still have many of the same fixed costs. And to be able to cover all of those costs, they have to raise rates on the water that they are selling. So that's why, in a very perverse way, the fact that San Diegans have conserved water is resulting in rates increasing. And I feel just as strongly as you do, Ms. Senora, that that is unfair, and I think that most San Diegans would find that unfair.
Also would like to comment on customer service and just give Katie Keach a shout out, as we probably bother her periodically throughout the day to make sure that we are getting constituents' needs addressed. And just want to thank you for all of your work and effort in your follow-up in resolving issues. Really appreciate the information in the report. I'm just going to keep my comments very simple, and I think most of my concern is looking at the County Water Authority and how we are going to move forward in dealing with how they are doing business. And I agree, if we are looking at how we need to look at our business models and make improvements and efficiencies and bring costs down, I also think that they owe that to the ratepayers and the residents to do their work to ensure that they are as efficient and making good decisions and sound decisions. I am a little perplexed because, as my colleague has indicated, we have gone what I think far and above in regards to figuring out how we conserve water. We have various programs that we have put together over the years that really worked to not spend or use water as we would when we look at the front yard rebate programs and things like that. So I almost feel as if no good deed goes unpunished, as we were trying to think that we were doing the right thing, and then to, as I have said on numerous occasions, it seems every move we make, we are getting hit with increases. So I guess in dealing with the County Water Authority, I guess one question I do have is, and I think we brought this up before, but those meetings are public, correct?
Correct.
Do we do anything in regards to educating our ratepayers in regards to those meetings, when they're conducted? Is it something we include in our bills or something? How do we look at engaging folks and bringing them into that conversation firsthand? Because I think that's where a lot of this conversation really should be taking place. I think once it reaches the dais, the decisions have been made, and we're up against very tough conversations and decisions.
Yeah, and I think that is an area, sorry, I'm not coming up with a clear example of where we do communicate, but I would say that is probably definitely an area that we think that could be promoted more, and that we can encourage and do that and educate people.
Okay, thank you for that. And I think it would be helpful if maybe you and your team could look and work with our communications department to see exactly what we can do there to educate and get folks more engaged on the front end.
Good evening, council members. Timothy Douglas, elected president of ASME Local 127. I'm here tonight in support of public utilities leaders. They have brought this to Local 127's attention that they need this to pass because we're looking at eliminating 275 filled positions right now, including all the unfilled positions moving forward. That's a lot of Local 127 positions being eliminated. That's a lot of promotional opportunities for 127. With that being said, we are in support of Public Utilities Department's request. Thank you.
Joey Sunyata, District 3. First of all, absolutely no. Now, I haven't heard anybody say they're approving the hearing. My understanding is this will be the first hearing in March. I hope I'm correct on that. We're not making any decision on the rates in this meeting. Please, City Attorney, correct me if I'm wrong when I'm done. So anyway, first of all, absolutely no on both items. Now, Councilmember Whitburn, thank you. I'll say this though. I want to speak to the word perverse, which you used, because I looked it up in the dictionary, and here's the first meaning as an adjective. Perverse, of a person or their actions showing a deliberate and obstinate desire to behave in a way that is unreasonable or unacceptable, often in spite of the consequences. End of meaning. Now, I am really, really confused and discouraged. I'm going to go back and look at why I was convinced that I should cut back my water, because now maybe I'll go back to turning on my water for my dishes. I'll cook more. I won't touch the toilet as much. I will take big showers, because if I'm going to hurt the rates of my beloved public by using less water, I don't want to do that. So here I am in a conundrum. And who put me in this conundrum? Government. And I don't get it. I really don't get it. And if all of you think this is right, in one way or another, please, please, please.
My apologies, your time
heart,
has concluded.
Speak to us.
My apologies, your time has concluded.
As mentioned in the last item, I serve this city council and our water customers on the board of directors of the San Diego County Water Authority. And again, for your clarity, the Water Authority is the water wholesaler for this region. The city of San Diego purchases water from the Water Authority, and we provide that water to our city water customers. My focus is to ensure that the price that the city pays for that water is as low as it can reasonably be, so that we can keep the cost of water for our city's water customers as low as is reasonably possible. And to that end, I have spoken out against rate hikes proposed by the Water Authority. I believe that more needs to be done to hold down those rate increases. And I have spoken about the real impact that rate hikes have on struggling San Diegans. I am encouraged by the fact that our city's 10 representatives on the Water Authority board are making a considerable impact on the approach of the County Water Authority. Last year, with the support of staff from the Public Utilities Department and the Office of the Independent Budget Analyst, we ran our own analysis of the Water Authority's budget figures, and we questioned the financial assumptions. In tandem with the mayor, who issued a memo last spring, we pushed back hard against the almost 25% rate hike that was initially proposed by the Water Authority. In the end, we were successful in knocking down that increase to 14%. I think that's still too high, but it was certainly an improvement over 25%. Notably, that was the first time that we can recall that the Water Authority's rate recommendation was not just approved as proposed. It was also the first time the Water Authority actually had to delay the rate vote for a month to work toward a lower rate at the city's insistence. In the end, nearly 70% of the board advocated for the lower increase. It's not just the city of San Diego that is concerned about rates impacting our community members. While we were able to get it down to 14%, it still has an impact on our residents, and we need to keep the pressure on. We will need the Water Authority to provide full transparency so we can work together to address costs. There is new leadership at the San Diego County Water Authority, and I appreciate that the leadership of the Water Authority has offered to appear before this City Council as often as we desire. We will push for the Water Authority to find additional customers for its water so that will increase its revenues and eliminate its structural financial imbalance once and for all. It helps that one of our city's representatives to the Water Authority Board of Directors, Nick Serrano, was recently elected chair of the Water Authority. Mr. Serrano has a keen eye on rate affordability as well. And our city's chief financial officer, Mr. Vespi, is another one of our city's representatives on the Water Authority Board of Directors. The city has considerable expertise and experience among its representatives on that board of directors. As we continue to address rates, I am committed to ensuring that our city of San Diego water system does not suffer. I am committed to ensuring that our city's residents are not burdened with a city water system that is failing due to a lack of investment because we paid the Water Authority instead of replacing old water pipes. If we don't set a public hearing on the rate pass-through, as Mr. Moore has mentioned from the Office of the Independent Budget Analyst, we would be handing our own city water system a $30 million budget cut. That wouldn't hurt the water authority. The city still has to pay the water authority for the water we import. We would just be hurting our own constituents and threatening the employment of city workers and construction workers, and that is something that I won't do. So with that, I'm going to offer a motion, and part of this motion pushes the conversation about ongoing pass-through authority to March when we take up the public hearing. So the motion that I'll make is to set a public hearing for March 4th at 2 p.m. to consider a 5.5% pass-through of the San Diego County Water Authority rates effective May 1st, 2025, and also on March 4th to consider approving the appropriate authority for the city to pass through County Water Authority adopted increases based on additional analysis by the City Attorney's Office, the Office of the Independent Budget Analyst, the County Water Authority, and this City Council. Thank you, Council President.
All right, thank you, Council Member Whitburn, for the motion, and you can see it on the screen, which adds some additional requests for conversations and analysis between now and then. So thank you for that, Council Member Whitburn. I'm going to jump in and second the motion for a couple of reasons. One, I want to mention that, as the Councilmember Whitburn said, in fact, everybody said, these pass-through costs by the County Water Authority put our ratepayers in difficult position. But I also want to emphasize that it puts PUD in a difficult position. I heard my colleagues talk about protecting our most important asset, which is our employees. And I appreciate Mr. Douglas's on-point and very blunt statement that what happens when we try to absorb a $30 million increase, it means cutting city employees. And I think we're united in not doing that. Nobody likes those actions going forward, but it's the position we find ourselves in. And as Mr. Moore pointed out, I do want to thank the prior actions by PUD and our City 10 for the good work that you did in trying to throttle a little bit of the previous recommendations by the County Water Authority to raise rates. And I know that you will be diligent in continuing those efforts going forward. And I think Mr. Serrano knows you're chair, you're not king, but you're going to be relentless along with your 9 compatriots, including Councilmember Whitburn, going forward. And as has been mentioned, I also look forward to the City 10 coming back to budget, coming back to the full council to apprise us of what is happening, to make sure that we're unified. And that also is part of what I'm thinking about too, is what is the best strategy to ensure that this council is also a strong voice in conversations with the County Water Authority that I think this council has not been in the past until it was really too late to make anything. I also want to highlight to Councilmember Whitburn's motion is the complexity of Prop 218. Prop 218 has a very complicated and a very lengthy timeline that has to be done before any rate increases can go forward. So by taking this action today, that puts us in position to get to March 4th, and then whatever action that the council ultimately does then gets us to be able to make those rate increases on May 1st. And I want to highlight the action today is not a decision on either the 5.5 or the pass-through authority by the city. It is only to set the date. And I will gently remind the council, you put your trust in me last December when we had a lot of heartburn about the East County action because of the way we traditionally did things. And if we're going to be a strong council, we cannot do things the way that we've always done. And we took that first step last December when we said, we will bring this back for a second reading as a discussion item, not as a quiet item on consent. And during that few weeks in between, the IBA, PUD, I believe even the mayor's office, took the time that was necessary to better explain what the East County cost sharing was all about. And we got to a place, and I think a very good vote earlier this morning. That is not doing business the way that we've always done it. So I would encourage my colleagues to support the motion that the Councilmember Whitburn has put on the table, because it's only to set the date. We still have the discretion on March 4th to hear from the public, to hear more from the IBA and PUD and anybody else you want to lean on for information to make that final decision. It's all at our discretions on March 4th going forward. But to stay in that timeline, to protect the integrity of the PUD budget, to be able to take whatever action the council approves on May 1st, really requires us to docket this for March 4th. And that's why I'm going to jump in here in a second. And then I'll close by saying to the media that's listening, don't you dare put a headline that says there's going to be 15% increases every year for the next 5 years. That is not what we're doing. That is not the intent going forward. It is the way that 218 forces us to document things in the notice to the public ratepayers going forward. I hope they listen. And so with that, again, I'll second the motion that is displayed on the screen. And I'll go next to Councilmember Campillo.
You know, I shared this during the briefing or the item at Budget and Government Efficiency Committee. And this is just very difficult for me. I'm more frustrated that the cost of these actions will now sit on the shoulders of San Diego residents who are already burdened by housing cost and just general cost of living. More needs to be done with the County Water Authority to address their issues in their agreement that we are paying for. This just simply is not right. It's unjust and it's unfair. District 4 is consistently negatively impacted by these choices. Whether a rate increase or a delay in infrastructure improvements, if you look at the information that you have provided today, this is just unfair. If you look at the increase in what we get, if it moves forward, and the decisions that were made as we look at if it does not pass, District 4, District 8, District 9 are severely impacted. We are some of the oldest communities, and yet we continue to get the least investment. This is just not equitable. I do not see how I can look my constituents in their eyes with good conscience, approve a rate pass-through on top of everything they are already burdened by. I just can't do it right now. I'm just not in the position to be supportive. I understand the difficulty in this situation, and more has to be done to address the County Water Authority agreement and our ability to access other water sources and even gain revenue from the water surplus we've incurred. I just simply will not support this item at this time. You know what, Council President, I will leave that there. I think there is just more work to do. And I agree that we do need to be a strong council at this moment. But I just can't go look my community in their eyes and do this. We are faced with difficult challenges with this budget cycle. Even as we look at the revenues that will come from the People's Ordinance and trash, this is just difficult. And I do agree, and I will say that the city's employees are our most valuable asset. And it is not my intention to look at 127, who they do so much for our constituents. And I am totally appreciative. But I think at this time, we need to have some very serious conversations. And one thing that's troubling to me, and I have brought this up, the Prop 218 process. I am just not comfortable with it. Because I have to believe if everyone knew how that process worked, we may not be in this position. The staff report says that mailers will go out And in that mailer, there will be an email address for people to go to if they speak different languages. What have we done over the past 5 years? We have documented and verified that there is a digital divide. And that digital divide rests in our communities. And when we look at the 5-year outlook, one-time expenditures, and we're having these difficult conversations, yet again, that digital divide is on the chopping block. But yet, we're being asked to move forward and depend on the internet to get us through. So with that, I just can't support this today, and I'll conclude my comments. But I am open to Mr. Serrano, as I have said, to help in any way I can, because I just cannot support this. So I will conclude that and turn it over to you, Council President. Thank you.
Thank you for your heartfelt comments.
And basically, I want to say, if CWA, which has been a bad actor, I'm sorry, but I'm just going to say it, they have been a bad actor. I'm not really sorry. It's time they get called out. I'm calling them out. I've been here 6 years now, and I have seen them do this time and time again, and I'm tired of it. So I'm going to call you out, CWA, and I'm going to say that if we would agree as a city to just pass through your rate increases, God knows how much you would make them. And so that's the question in, I think, all of our minds right now. And so I'm glad that we will have another chance to talk about that in March. In the meantime, I would like to know if we could receive a complete, detailed budget of what CWA's budget is. I'd like to see their entire budget list. I don't know if you guys on the executive board get to see it, but I understand in past years it's been difficult to get them to explain what the heck they're spending all this money on. And I think it's very important that we see that. So I would like to request that we get that information on council prior to the March meeting. And is that possible that we could have that? Good. I think that would be extremely helpful. And I agree with all of my colleagues that we have got to take into account the pain of our ratepayers and the pain that it would cost the entire city, not just 3 districts, the whole city, if our PUD is not able to go forward with what it needs to do to keep our pipes from breaking. I know in many past years, the entire PUD budget has had to been spent on emergencies. That's ridiculous. We have to be able to provide future care for our system as well as take care of emergencies. So I'm in favor of the 5.5, but I want to tell our city members, our 10 city members, especially our new chair, Nick, how grateful I am that you got them from 24% down to 14%. I just wish we could have gotten them down more. And I think when we see that budget and talk to them, maybe they'll understand that they really need to do a little in-house shuffling and get their budget down. But in the meantime, I want to thank you so much for answering those questions. Thank you.
I also want to thank the County Water Authority for taking action 25 years ago to make sure that the San Diego region does have a reliable water supply. I do value that. At the same time, a lot has changed in the last 25 years, and it's unclear to me that the County Water Authority is changing with the times. I know that with the punishing cost of living in San Diego, raising the rates we charge our residents is something heavy on all of our minds, including at PUDs, because this is not your rate increase, this is the County Water Authority's. But we've been facing these decisions every day to increase costs. We are constantly being asked up here to increase cost for our service contracts and construction projects. In fact, just this morning, we voted on a major increase in the cost to a project related to our pure water infrastructure, and I voted for it. Even though I don't like doing that, because eventually those increased costs will end up in our residents' water bills, I voted for it this morning because those costs were necessary to deliver a tangible product to our residents. Water they can actually drink for future generations. But in this item, CWA has passed on to us the cost of its bad decisions and its failure to adapt to modern times. And I'm not comfortable with that. So this slide here shows their take-or-pay contract liability. They're going to be actually using less and less water over time, but they're still going to pay that orange line up there. So those lower bars in 26, 27, 28, that means they're paying for water they're never going to use. Paying for water we are never going to drink. And I refuse to pay for CWA's ghost water. I'm not going to do it. Despite the knowledge for over a decade that we have been building pure water, that East County is building pure water, that the Poseidon desalination plant came in, these take-or-pay contracts have not changed. We could sell this water to other regions. The city of Phoenix is developing housing that doesn't have water, potable water, because they ran out of it. So the city should not be paying to increase rates for their ghost water contracts, because it's not a tangible good that my residents or any of our residents will benefit from. I know I'm not the only one who thinks this way. I want to thank the mayor and our City 10, but especially the mayor for his memo on May 22nd of 2024. This is fantastic. He wrote, "The Water Authority staff assured its member agencies that by accepting rate increases then, they would lessen the need for future rate increases now. This has not proven to be true, and year after year, little has been done to address the structural long-term challenges facing the Water Authority. As you know, in the late 1990s, in the early 2000s, the Water Authority was a pioneer in ensuring a water supply portfolio. That has benefited the region, but the future of our region's water demand looks very different today, and it's imperative the authority continue to pursue opportunities to leverage its existing take-or-pay contracts. I believe that more can be done to mitigate the proposed rate increase, and there is another path that could be taken to solve for one of the drivers of these rate increases." I agree with the mayor. I don't think they're doing enough. And so I am not going to be paying for their ghost water problem and passing it on to us. They can fix it themselves. So I have an alternative motion to put. I would request that we deny these rate increases. We deny future rate increases in the authority until they've shown us they have fixed this ghost water problem. And I would request that PUD don't pay it. Just don't pay the increased rate increases. Pay the 8% for the water that we agreed to earlier and we've already voted on. Do not touch our CIP. Do not fire or lay off a single employee. We shouldn't have to budget crunch because they are charging us highway robbery prices. So that is what I think we should do, and that is my alternate motion. Don't pay it. They can figure it out. I'm guessing I'm not going to get a second on that motion, but that's what I would have done. If anyone wants to jump in, they can. Can I take the extra 3 minutes, please? Okay. In addition, I appreciate Tim Douglas being here. We do not need to lay off a single city employee to cover these highway robbery prices. There are other things that the Water Authority, that PUD can do. We don't have to put our CIP program at risk. And I also don't appreciate those being my choices, because we get to vote on a lot of things with PUD's budget. July 15th, 2024, this council voted on the First Amendment to the RFP for the application, maintenance, and support contract with Deloitte Consulting. We voted to give Deloitte Consulting $9 million for a new customer service portal. We don't need a new customer service portal. So if you actually solve that problem with Google Docs already. Public utilities internal applications, $6 million. Capacity for other projects, $4 million for other expansion and improvement projects identified through 2030. Public utilities ongoing support for customer service phases 1, 2, and 3, $15 million to Deloitte. Another $11 million going for internal development, $4 million for other projects. That is $50 million we offer to Deloitte for software products that I don't think we need. You guys are doing a great job with our customer service already. We just saw that in your previous presentation. So if you need $63 million to cover this, or however million, get it from these contracts. Don't touch our CIP, do not fire a single city employee, and don't raise the weights for our customers because the CWA can't get their finances together. I appreciate you, this is not your problem, but there's ways to do this that doesn't impact us, and I'd rather see us do that. Thank you.
All right.
I absolutely will not be able to support today's action to set a date for this proposal. because I cannot simply, I can't justify charging water customers more than they already pay. I represent a district that this is going to be extremely impactful for them. And also, I just want to say the fact that the first answer to us voting no is to threaten 127, our staff, that to me is not something that I stand for, considering that the city of San Diego does have over $204 million of outside contracting every single year. And thank you to my colleague for pointing out just one of those, one of those six point something million dollars out of the 204. So that to me, that really makes me angry. I'll say that. That really makes me angry, and I don't think that's the way we should be conducting business. So with that, I will be voting no on the motion before us today, and I would urge my colleagues in the future action to consider removing the transparency issue that I pointed out earlier. So I'm going to be voting no. Thank you.
I also need to see seriousness through action, not through words, but through action by the Water Authority, that they are actually doing what they need to do. Because additional authority, from my vantage point, requires earned trust. And earned trust is earned through action. So when I start to see them take actions that are demonstrating to me that they take serious the cost of living impacts that their decisions make on San Diegans, then I would be amenable to the idea of additional pass-through authority. So again, everything Councilman Lee said, and then just so everyone here and over there knows, will need to act in a way that earns the trust that will make me feel like I can look a San Diegan in the eye and say, yes, I provided them authority and I've provided them that authority because they earned it in these ways. Thank you, Council President.